Hi, my name is Krista Westervelt. I'm a junior in Peace and Conflict Studies with a minor in Gerontology, and my faculty mentor is Dr. Rebecca Adams in the Gerontology program in the Department of Social Work. My research looks at the effect of racial disparities and transportation access on older adults in Chatham County, North Carolina. Older adults of color have more limitations on access to transportation as they age than their white peers. Now, overall, in the United States, hundreds of thousands of older drivers stop driving altogether each year. There are a number of common causes for this, including medical conditions, economic conditions, and other factors. Now, once they stop driving, older adults, for men, they'll need 6 years of post-cessation transportation support, and women 10 years of support, in part due to their longer life expectancy. There are racial disparities in the occurrence of this driving cessation, with non-white respondents having 144% higher odds of stopping driving altogether compared with their white peers. Now, public transportation isn't a foolproof response to this. There's a lack of scheduling flexibility, inaccessibility for buses and vans for those with mobility issues, and of course, cost is a factor. In terms of relying on friends and family as alternative, a number of older adults are concerned about becoming a burden on their friends and family. Now, such disparities would suggest that non-white older adults will require additional transportation supports beyond the needs of older white adults. So what does that look like in the local context? Now, my research has focused on the operation of the Congregate Transportation Program at the Chatham County Council on Aging prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. Here are some of my methods and sources, including literature searches, phone interviews, and my own hands-on information from my role as an employee at the Council on Aging. A large number of the Council on Aging's Congregate Nutrition Program participants required transportation services to participate. This is obtained to them free of charge with an optional client contribution. This is through a contracted service with Chatham Transit. And this allows them to participate in activities at the center and partake of hot lunch service. In terms of the general demographics of Chatham County, 14% of the population is minority, while the congregate nutrition participants at the Council on Aging are 56% minority, primarily Black. In terms of socioeconomics, the congregate nutrition program participants, 49% are at or below poverty level. Typically, pre-pandemic, the Council's Eastern Center would be open from 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, with a number of activities beginning before congregate transportation would arrive. Now, the buses contracted through Chatham Transit often would arrive over an hour to 2 hours after the center opened, which would mean that those who relied on congregate transportation would miss 1 to 2 programs before they even arrived at the center. Typically, the lunch would be served at noon and the buses would depart within 20 minutes after that, and those non-driving participants would return home. There's no afternoon transportation provided by the council itself. Because of this, you can see some unintentional racial segregation to the programming. Congregate lunch participants are 56% Black, but those who participate in classes and programs held either before bus arrival or after bus departure are predominantly white. For instance, those who participate in the Arthritis Foundation-based fitness class are 94% white, and those who participate in the Lunch Bunch program after the center sends folks home on the congregate buses, those are 80% white. And those are some other groups that holds out for as well. In terms of trying to find their own transportation, self-booking on Chatham Transit has its own limitations, whether that's because of the cost and also because of 48-hour advance notice needed. And the council provided congregate transportation is limited based on a minimum number of passengers needed to set a route, as well as a maximum number of passengers who could be on each route, which then ends up limiting access to not only the regular programs, but also popular programs around the holidays that help with social connections during those times of the year. Unfortunately, there are negative impacts of transportation access limitations on health and quality of life, including depression and lower social engagement, cognitive decline, and others. One rural participant in a 2006 study noted that when you stop driving, you become a prisoner. There are also cumulative disadvantages at that intersection between racial disparities and driving cessation, and that's associated with poorer psychological and physical health outcomes. And this helps significantly contribute to an experience of race-related stress and creates barriers to achieving healthy and productive aging. Now, the goal of the transportation programs offered at the Council on Aging and other aging-related organizations is meant to improve access for older adults to programs that help with health and social supports in the community. Unfortunately, racial disparities are shown to limit the scope of achieving this goal. So considerations for the future would be to identify stable transportation alternatives in order to increase transportation flexibility and availability in order to address unintentional segregation of programming, as well as potential racial disparities in health and wellness outcomes. In terms of the broader long-term applications, as the US population ages and continues to grow more racially and ethnically diverse, these transportation disparities are something that need to be considered. I would like to thank the Executive Director of the Council on Aging, Dennis Streets, for supporting this work, along with Jackie Green for her participation, Dr. Rebecca Adams for her mentorship and wisdom, Rachel Olson, the UNCG librarian, for her assistance, and the Undergraduate Scholarship and Creativity Office at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. Thank you so much.